Dorothy Gulliver was a popular silent comedienne and easily transitioned to starring in the early talkies. But by the mid-30s, she shifted to character work in B-movies before more or less retiring. Why? Join me as I investigate. Dorothy Gulliver was born in 1908 in Salt Lake City to Fred and Nellie Gulliver. She was one of 7 siblings and began acting in local plays at a young age. As a teenager, she won the Salt Lake Telegram's movie contest, beating out 139 other girls from Utah and winning a 6-month contract with Universal. After a few bit parts, Universal realized that she had a knack for comedy and cast her as the heroine in their comedic short, The Collegians, in 1926. She played June Maxwell, the daughter of the college dean, who gets mixed up in a series of misadventures and hijinks with Ed, played by George J. Lewis, and Don, played by Eddie Phillips. The short was a smash hit and led to Universal producing 44 sequels between 1926 and 1929, if you can believe it, each one continuing to be popular with audiences. Various titles in the series included Making Good, The Last Lap, The Relay, and Cinder Path, all showcasing Dorothy's lovely talent as a comedienne and who often saves the day for her wacky friends. In 1927, Universal, sensing Dorothy's broader talent, began to star her in dramatic features including The Shield of Honor with Neil Hamilton. In 1928, based on her rising popularity, Dorothy was named a Wampas Baby star alongside Stu Carroll, Lupe Velez, and many others. In 1929, Dorothy made her talkie debut in King of Campus, a talkie in the Collegian series, with the subsequent films in the series being talkies as well. Her first talkie feature film was 1929's Night Parade at RKO, which saw her as ingenue Doris O'Connell, whose boyfriend, the boxer Bobby, played by Hugh Trevor, is led astray by the vamp Paula, played by Aileen Pringle. Variety stated that Dorothy Gulliver is nice as the heroine. The film appears to have done well, and Dorothy was off to a fantastic start in the talkies, with the double commercial successes of her feature and her Collegian shorts. Next, in 1929, she went to Tiffany to co-star with Joe E. Brown, Helen Foster, and Barton Hepburn in Painted Faces, playing vaudeville singer and dancer Babe Barnes and singing Bashful Baby. According to one source, after the Collegians ended in 1929, Dorothy left Universal to freelance. While she easily and quickly found starring roles, she made a new career for herself as the heroine of quite a number of B-westerns, comedies, and dramas at Poverty Row Studios, all of which she continued to star in through 1939, with an occasional bit part here or there in major A pictures. Highlights of her work in this period include starring with Rex Lees in Old Cheyenne in 1931, in which she played ranch owner Helen Sutter, starring as hat check girl June Bonner in The Honor of the Press in 1932, supporting Thelma Todd in Cheating Blondes in 1933, starring as investigator Pat in The Fighting Caballero in 1935, and starring as Virginia in 1939's Lone Star Pioneers. After appearing in a few small roles in the 40s, including Miss Tyndall in 1942's Tragedy at Midnight, Dorothy more or less retired, but became a publicity agent and married fellow agent Charles Proctor in 1947. She made a few TV appearances in the 50s, including a lovely scene-stealing bit as the perfume salesgirl in a 1953 episode of Mr. and Mrs. North. In 1968, Dorothy amazingly came out of retirement to play a major supporting role in John Cassavetes' classic Oscar-nominated independent film, Faces, playing the hard-drinking and tough-talking Florence, delivering an incredible tour de force performance, perhaps the greatest of her career. I was particularly fascinated by Dorothy's casting in this film and did some research, wondering how she came to get this part in a major film after so many years away. According to an article on The Independent, in 1967, Dorothy and Charles Proctor went to a dinner party hosted by Fritz Lang, where Dorothy sang a song for fun. She didn't think much of it, but it caught the eye of John Cassavetes, who was also in attendance, and asked her to play Florence in his movie. What a story. However, according to the same article, even though critics raved about Dorothy's performance, Charles wouldn't allow John to publicize her campaign for her performance, costing her what could have been not only a great second act in her career, but maybe even an Oscar nomination. Check out the film and you'll see how powerful Dorothy was. The earliest studios definitely did not know what a talent they had on their hands. Dorothy retired again after the film was released, although she did briefly appear in 1976's One Ton Ton in a cameo role as the woman on the bus, even though she would deny appearing in this film years later. Dorothy spent the rest of her life in mostly quiet retirement. In 1984, she attended a Western film convention in Raleigh and received a standing ovation from the crowd. She continued to make various appearances and gave interviews for several years. Dorothy Gulliver passed away in 1997 at the age of 88. So we are left with the question, why did Dorothy Gulliver shift to character work in B movies and the Talkies? Well, I think there are two reasons. It may have been her decision to leave Universal and go freelance in 1929, although maybe not. She did drift into B westerns and found a new niche there and worked as often as she could. However, one source explains that she was injured in a bad car accident in 1935, which could also have taken a toll on her continued success in the talkies. However, I urge you to watch Dorothy's work in 1968's Faces. It is one of the finest performances I have seen on the screen. It makes me think no one in Hollywood really understood what a talent Dorothy was. She could have and should have been doing movies like Joan Crawford and Bette Davis. However, that was okay because she was just as happy to be one of the most popular B-Western leading ladies and knocked that niche out of the park. What a true legend. You can find many of Dorothy's Collegian silents on YouTube as well as The Shield of Honor. You can also find Painted Faces, Night Parade, and Faces there as well. I must thank my sources for this episode: The Salt Lake Telegram, Silence is Platinum, The Files of Jerry Blake, The Independent, Virtual History, the National Museum of American History, Find a Grave, and archive.org for their digitization of Variety. Please like and subscribe or follow this account if you want to learn more about the history of silent film stars whose stardom lasted only briefly in the talkies. Up next, join me as I investigate the silent talkie career of Raymond Hackett. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day.